Today, I want to talk to you about mistake number one, growing for the sake of growing. It's Thursday today, and on Thursdays we discuss past business, property, investing experiences. And I'm going to start a little series on a Thursday now of all the mistakes I've made. And I could go on for probably years doing this, but I'm going to start with obviously some of the big ones, and hopefully this will be really useful to people in, to avoid the mistakes I've made, because, some people think I'm successful, some people think I'm a failure. I'm neither. I'm on the journey, but I know where that journey is now. And back in the day, fresh out of university, left my first corporate job within a year to 18 months and went alone from there. Haven't looked back. I have looked back on multiple times when things have been tough and you crave that kind of job security of a salary and all those sort of things. But this is a really big fundamental mistake that I made, and it just shows my lack of experience at the time, a pure naivety. Now, something I now know is, which is pretty obvious, is success leaves clues. So you find somebody who is at the level where you want to get to, and follow them, engage with them, speak with them, because copy what they're doing if it's within realms to do so within your business or your niche, because it works. They've obviously proof that works. So that success leaves clues, and also listen to their experiences. Big one. And there's a few things that kind of relate to this. I know investors that won't invest in anybody unless they've cycled once. And what people mean by that is they've had a business that's been relatively successful and they've pretty much lost it all, or it's gone as close to being lost as you can get before they've built it up again. And the reason people say that is you learn so much more in the downturn, in the failure, in when it all starts to go wrong. That's where you really learn. It's the same with driving a car analogy. People say you don't learn during your lessons, you learn when you get on the road for the first time. And those little mistakes, those experiences that you're going to make, hopefully none of them are catastrophic, but that's where you learn. If someone beeps a horn, if you don't indicate a roundabout or whatever, you learn to indicate next time you go to that roundabout. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, that's the way a lot of people learn. So from experiences. So if somebody else is giving you those experiences, listen to them. Take notes and don't ignore them, because it'll come back and bite you in the future. So why is this mistake such a biggie for me? Well, I'll talk to you about it in just a second. Just going past someone. Morning. So why is it such a big mistake to me? There's a lovely dog here running by me. Well, firstly, I got to my peak. My property portfolio is 96 strong. It's reducing quite regularly at the moment because I'm at a different stage in the business in terms of we've sold some, we've some of the rent we used to do, we've handed back, and these types of things, as we're starting to consolidate the portfolio and reduce the level of risk and the gearing, all that side of things. But however, I grew it to 96 properties, which is a considerable amount. And it's not, some people, when people use quantity, they'll bolt in rentable rooms or tenants. So obviously I've got 40 odd HMOs. So if I was going to do that, there's a significant number of rooms there. It's 200 rooms probably. So I could say, I've got 240 or 250 properties, but I class a property as a self-contained property, not a room. So I've got a block of flats, and there's 9 in that block of flats. I'll classify each of those as an individual property, whereas I've got loads of HMOs. I'll only classify each HMO as one property. So that's just for clarity and scope. But I got there, and I've talked about, I think my episode tomorrow goes into great detail on how I so watch for tomorrow, because the title was a heads up is 96 properties, how I got there, so you can understand the journey that I went through. But the big mistake I made here was not having an end goal, not having an underlying reason. Sorry, to the jump over a massive puddle. If you haven't noticed, it's absolutely chucking it down. And again, thank you for holding me accountable for going out. Because if I didn't have this to do, no way would I be running today. It'd be an easy out for me. So thank you. But yeah. So back to the mistake. Not having an end game or knowing what I really wanted is really key. And people jump into business and they don't have an idea of what their idealistic life looks like. And be realistic. You can always push the end game back further and adjust it. So try and use it as milestones, I would say. What's the first milestone you want to get to before you actually really stop and take stock of the situation? Really, really important, because I said a long time ago that 10 grand a month would be, I could be happy for the rest of my life on that without any shadow of doubt. And at the peak, I've been almost double that. At the lowest point, I've been almost minus that a month. So I've seen the full level of spectrum and the full level of stresses and experiences from both ends. And all I'd say is that I grew that property business without a reason to grow it. It's only now when I look back, that's what I wanted. When I look back at the historical data, I was in and around that I was at that point about half the size of the portfolio. So it's under 15, I was achieving that. And I distinctly remember at that time, life was good, I was growing, I had a really strong pipeline, I was buying, I was doing lease options, joint ventures, rent to rents. I had my property strategy toolkit with me in the back of my car, and I was negotiating wherever the opportunity presented itself, which seemed to be everywhere at the time. And there was this couple of business guys who I was almost direct competitors with in my target area for HMOs, and they had a very similar model to me, and had a lot of low end, well, not low end, but they had the kind of blue collar or benefits side of the tenant profile. And that's what I'll talk about this in the future, but I think unfairly sometimes the landlords will turn away from people on benefits or people on low incomes, and they'll frown upon them in some form of class structure or hierarchy, which is absolutely completely wrong. I can tell you categorically, I've housed probably getting on for 500 people that have either been claiming benefits or low income over the years, and the data doesn't lie. It's 1 in 15 would be a bad one, and when I say bad, it'll either be arrears or big arrears or damage or antisocial behaviour, all these things that people associate. So it's not fair to generalise a 10 demographic in that way, because lots of them are just falling on hard times, and then you're stepping stone back to some form of stability in their lives, which is something that I've been quite passionate about, what we've done for many a year. So that's just my little rant over, but I'll talk about that in more detail. But this other couple of business guys were doing something similar to me with shared accommodation and in the area, and they had well over double what I had at the time. I think somewhere in around 250 properties. I had probably less than 50 at the time, and I was had a bit of banter with them. It was a friendly rivalry. And I remember one of the partners saying, "You know what? I enjoyed this, and I was earning more. It was more profitable at less than half the size, probably 25% of the size that we are today. We would have been more profitable, taking home more money, less stress, less hassle, and if I could turn back the clock, I would have stopped there." So that is absolute gold for someone like me doing something exactly what they're doing, and most normal people would have listened and thought, "Wow, that's amazing. I need to really look at where we are at the moment. It's sustainable. It's doing really well. I've got a good level of income. All these types of things. I should have taken stock and maybe diversified into something else, or paused there, because that was the sustainable tipping point." But being young and naive as I was in my early 20s at the time, I thought, yeah, what are these guys? Oh, great advice, thanks for that. And then it just kind of went in one ear and out the other. But that was mainly because I didn't have an objective of growth at the time. I just knew all the strategies, and it was just fear of missing out, opportunity cost. Get out there, don't procrastinate, take action, grow. And as a result, obviously I doubled the portfolio size, and then it all started going wrong, towards the, and well, not necessarily just going wrong, but just being so much more challenging to manage, working so much harder for the return was lower. And you're thinking, I've missed the sweet spot here. And then I had a few other major things go wrong in the business. And I talked about those in other mistake episodes. And I just sat there thinking, why did I not listen to them? That was absolute golden information. And I was just naive and ignorant to think that, yeah, it won't happen to me. But it does, believe me. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover you today. The summary to this is success leaves clues. So find people who are at the level up from where you are, not too many levels up, because it can be a big disparity in what activity they're doing compared to what you're doing. So just one rung up on the journey in a similar niche as possible to you, and befriend them. And one thing I found is most business people are pretty supportive, because that's what I wanted to build this community. Because entrepreneurs, people start a business and thinking, day one the launch is so hard, but it's going to be easier from now on. It's absolutely rubbish. It gets harder and harder. Okay, there's ways to reduce how hard it gets by systems and processes and outsourcing all these things, but you then have people management, all these things. The problems just keep coming. And it's how quickly you're able to solve them, which determines how easy the journey will be. But it's never, ever easy. And if somebody thinks that, then don't get into business, because it won't work. I mean, there's a reason 2.7% of businesses last test of time. And there's a reason that the vast majority of every business gets started up won't. So bear that in mind. But back to the summary, success leaves clues. Find someone one level up and communicate with them. And the reason I say that is most business people who've been through these experiences will be pretty supportive. They'll obviously always contrary to the rule, but they'll help you. People do help each other. People don't want to see someone going through the huge stresses and the pains of running a business. If they've been through it themselves, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. So generally speaking, what I've found is people have been very, very helpful. And I've always got 2 or 3 people that I tap into who are various levels ahead of me. And I'll always ping ideas to them. And I've never had any, some of it I pay for, some of it it's free. But I always get some advice on stuff I do. And it helps me reduce the number of mistakes I make. Doesn't mean I stop making them, but it helps me reduce. So that's lesson 1, success leaves clues. Number 2 is people that are perhaps in business longer than you. That's the other thing. They may not necessarily have a business bigger, but have people like that. I have a very strong relationship with my father, who's a serial entrepreneur. Back in the day, he's had franchises, he started retail, he's had self-employed points of his life, and he's had a long, successful career in corporate sales. He has a wealth of experience. I regularly run things past him, and although he's not in my niche, doesn't necessarily understand the intricacies of what I do, but he's got a lot of experience in business. So find people who've got experience and tap into that as well, because they will have come up with things that you won't have come up with yet in a different type of way, and hopefully it'll enable you to avoid those same pitfalls. So really, really important. And the final point for today is work out what the end game is, or that first major milestone that you want to achieve. And then when you get there, stop and really, really scrutinise what the next milestone is going to be. Don't just grow for the sake of growing, because the term growing pains is there for a reason. It applies to not just human growth, but also business growth. So bear that in mind. Stop, know the reason why, work out that first milestone, and reverse engineer your activity backwards of what you do each day to get you there. When you get there, don't just keep going. Stop. Take a week off, celebrate, whatever. Take it longer off. Really take stock and really work out what the next milestone is for you. And make sure it's in line with your values, what your idealistic life looks like. Because my idealistic life when I first came out of university was, I want this massive business empire. My idealistic business life now is as small a business as I could possibly have, which gives me the income that I want and desire, that gives me what I want for my family and their futures, and also to spend more time with them and go away on holidays, etc. with them. That's what I want to do. So I'm reverse engineering what that lifestyle looks like, which is why I'm reducing the size of my business, reducing the size of my level of debt and gearing, and because it's so in line with what I'm trying to achieve. Had I known that when I started, I would have been where I needed to be I'm probably 10 years behind because of this one mistake. So hopefully that puts some perspective around it. But I'll get there. And anybody who needs some help and support, tap me up. I'll do my best to help wherever I can. So hope that's useful, guys. As always, stay happy, stay positive. I'll talk to you about mindset and the reasons for that in the future. So important. But I'll see you on the next episode.